Is Halo in trouble? Let's separate the facts from the fiction. This week has been a pretty rough week in the world of Halo, Xbox, Microsoft, and just honestly across a lot of the industries. There's a lot of layoffs. But yesterday, Microsoft announced they were cutting about 10,000 people from their headcount, and it looks like 343 may have received an outsized portion of some of the cuts. Now, granted, there's just a lot going on. And so I wanted to kind of bring together a lot of the information that we've learned as sort of the dust starts to settle and we can kind of peel back what is going on. So yesterday, Microsoft announced layoffs and 343, it looks like maybe around 60 people got cut from the org. And it looks like if you're a big fan of like potentially single player DLC, I don't think that's going to be coming. So let's just jump in here to the first bit of big news is Joe Staten is now leaving 343. He is not leaving Microsoft as a whole. He is going back to Xbox Publishing. And so I actually think that happened maybe potentially a couple weeks ago based off of a deleted tweet he pushed up. The specifics of the date don't really matter. The fact is that Joe has now left, and we all know that he was working on what we believe to be parts of just getting Halo back, hopefully on its feet, and really hopefully helping out with the campaign. But if the campaign stuff isn't really happening, then it maybe makes sense that he isn't really there. The second bit of news is that we know a lot of the teams were gutted, including, it looks like Art got hit pretty hard here, as you can see by this post by Neil Harrison, and just outlining how his team was, destroyed through some of these layoffs, which, again, nobody likes layoffs. I've been through layoffs. I've been laid off myself. It's rough. And I genuinely wish everybody at 343 and who else got laid off, not just Microsoft and Amazon and everything else, the best. But, so it looks like Art got hit pretty hard as well, and you can pause this video and read that if you would like. But the other interesting thing, too, that has come out time and time again is the outsized use of contractors over on Halo, and that actually bubbled up yesterday as well. Through some of the conversation about Patrick Wren, who is a former senior designer at Halo. You can read through his thread, but it really boils down to is one, you can feel the animosity towards the management. And I think it's very much worth pointing out that a lot of these decisions and the reasons why Halo is in the position that it is today is management, right? The decisions that were made, how they go to market, the technology stack that's going to be used, how they're spending their money, and everything else. Now, we've already known that there has been a management reshuffle over at 343. Bonnie Ross is out. Many other senior executives are now gone from the company. And things are continuing to just sort of move along. Now, the question becomes what is moving along actually meaning? We know that Forge has come out, and Forge, in my opinion, was probably the best chance for Halo to really try to find a community, find a marketplace, and find a positioning that's going to help it survive. Because up until this point, granted, that people like myself really love Halo. I grew up on Halo. It's my franchise. When I think of what I think of gaming is like Halo and, maybe Command & Conquer, Red Alert 2. But Halo was definitely the FPS that got me and fell in love with Xbox. And so what is the next steps here, which can be a little bit frustrating? So Forge came out, right? Forge was what we believed going to help, but the data isn't there suggesting things are going exceptionally well yet. So if you look at this from Steam charts, and granted, this is only Steam charts, it's not including the Xbox console, roughly a year ago, the average player count was around 23,000 players. This month, it's looking like it's 4K. And that is alarming because even if Microsoft could come out with some new cosmetics that people wanted to buy, the population base isn't really there to justify the expenditures that Microsoft is putting into this. At some point, Microsoft has to decide, are we going to continue to throw good money after bad money? Meaning, is Halo just a lost cause at this point? Now, I don't think Microsoft is ready to just cut chase and just be like, hey, we're shutting this thing down. There's no coming back. There's nothing we can do. One, the marketing black eye that they would take from that would be massive, not to mention they don't want to sabotage the IP any more than it has been. Granted, I think we could all pretty reasonably argue that 343 hasn't been a great steward of the Halo brand. Yes, they've made some games, and there's also been some really bad things that have come out. I mean, look at the Master Chief Collection. That was a disaster. Halo Infinite, I think, is following that same disaster footpath, despite the fact that there are nuggets of brilliance inside of that Halo Infinite world. I think their ambitions were great, and where they wanted to take Halo was amazing, but they just really fell short on the execution. And the question becomes, what was the cause of the failure of that execution? Was it leadership? Was it management? Was it not having enough money? I doubt that it's that they didn't have enough funds. I mean, Microsoft was going for a quad A, 90 plus Metacritic rating. I mean, I'm assuming here at least above 80. I would imagine anything below that, they would be, why would you spend that much money on it? So they're dumping hundreds of millions of dollars, and they didn't get what they paid for. I bet if you're looking at it from a management perspective outside, like Microsoft's board of directors, they say, well, we spent how much on Halo? What was our return? Well, that clearly doesn't make sense. What are we doing now, sort of thing? And so Microsoft is in an interesting state, and there's a lot of rumors saying Halo's dead, Halo's done. I don't think Halo is dead and done. I don't genuinely believe that. I also don't hope that either. That'd be the worst outcome out of all this. So the question becomes, what is next for Halo? Well, let's kind of pull this back here. So there's two ways to interpret Joe leaving. The good thing that, the optimistic point of view could be that, hey, Joe is going back to Xbox Publishing because the issues have been solved and that things are now moving in a much better direction. That is the optimistic take. Now, the pessimistic take would be like, hey, they're just done with campaign stuff, and like they're at this point, they're just pulling back and they're just going to kind of, dribble things out or trickle things out, and that's just how Halo's going to be going forward, and we're done dumping a whole bunch of money into it. The truth is probably somewhere in between there. I would suspect that hey, his role is done here, things are moving better, but Microsoft isn't going to put more money into it. I think that is potentially where it lands. So the other question that keeps coming up is, should Microsoft give Halo to another studio? That is not a realistic possibility, in my opinion. I don't think that's possible. I really don't. Because first off, they're running on a lot of proprietary technology known as the Slipspace engine. If this was an Unreal Engine game, yeah, that could be possible because, hey, those skills are transferable. There's tons of Unreal studios out there. We're like, hey, here's Halo, here's all the assets, help us move faster and be more efficient. That is possible. But when you're working with your own engine like this, I think that really has hamstrung Microsoft and 343 for that matter, to get to where they are today. I do hope that Microsoft continues with these rumored battle royale plans. I do hope that is where the direction that they are focusing on. They're saying look, if we have one more bet for Halo, it's battle royale. That is it. And we're going to stop doing DLC content for the campaign. That's just going to go away. All efforts go towards this battle royale style gameplay that we know is popular. And so that's our last chance. If Forge doesn't materialize, Battle Royale is our last chance, and then Microsoft will figure out what to do from there. That is the direction that I truly hope is coming out of all of these, these layoffs and everything else. I still think there is a future for this game, but if the Battle Royale doesn't work out, if Forge doesn't work out, I think we might see a little bit of a gap before Microsoft brings back Halo. Which brings me to my next really interesting thought and brain nugget here. So Microsoft very clearly knows what's going on with Halo. They are trying to buy Call of Duty. Is Microsoft, part of me is wondering, does Microsoft see the tea leaves and look, Halo's just kind of got to go away and go passive for a little bit, for a few years, maybe a decade or so before we bring it back. And we need another title to slot in there as the hero of the brand. Call of Duty could be it, and maybe that justifies why they're going so aggressively after Activision through the courts with ABK and everything else. So it's interesting. I don't like using the term specifically this interesting times, mostly because the communication now out of 343 is going to be scrutinized to a very particular level, right? Everybody's looking for what's happening next, right? People inside of Halo who are clearly saying, employees have commented on a YouTube chat saying, look, we're not going anywhere. And of course, that's going to be the scenario. No company is going to come out and say, look, Halo's done. Stop spending money on microtransactions. There's no need. Nobody's going to say that, right? Look at Stadia. Stadia was tweeting out, we're still alive, happy, and healthy right up until the very second it was not. And again, I don't want to wish any ill upon the employees at 343. I can only empathize with them, the amount of stress that they are under, and just seeing their friends walked out the door is a gut-wrenching experience, and I don't wish it upon anybody. But I truly do hope that Microsoft can figure out a way to salvage the Halo Infinite title. Not so much the brand. I think the brand will continue to remain strong because, look, it survived a lot of things up until now. There's a lot of people like myself who will go buy the next Halo game blind, sight unseen, regardless of what it is, just because we want to continue to support support the brand that we grew up with. So that's sort of the nutshell version of what is going on with Halo Infinite. And I'm sure we are going to learn more over the next coming days. If there's one thing I hope we see is that we come out of this with 343 coming with clear direction, because at this point, people like myself are concerned about what's going on and why we should give more money to Halo. So that's what I hope we see. As always, everybody, make sure to keep it subscribed here, because I'll keep you updated on everything with Halo and Windows and Microsoft and beyond, because only BS on this channel is me.